CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang joins us now with the latest from the Biden administration on this. Weijia, we know that President Biden canceled a trip to Colorado today. That's fueling speculation of a potential visit to Israel. We know it's being considered. What more can you tell us?
Errol, at this point, that's all it is speculation, because you're absolutely right. The president was supposed to be in Colorado today, delivering a speech about clean energy and the economy and touring a manufacturing plant, and that was canceled abruptly. And instead, his team says he's remaining in town to have national security meetings. And we do know that there are conversations about the president going to Israel underway, but so far nothing has been confirmed. And I have to tell you that, as you know from covering the White House, we just spotted a Marine sentry outside the entrance to the West Wing, and that typically means that the president is inside the Oval Office working. And so this is the first time today that we are seeing that. There was even more speculation that since we hadn't seen that, he wasn't actually here at the White House. But again, as of right now, there are no details to announce in terms of whether he will be going to Israel. But of course, if he does, Errol, that would send such a major message, really taking the message that he's been saying so much from day one, that the U.S. has Israel's back, to the region in person, standing next to Israeli officials. That would, of course, just heighten that commitment even more.
Yeah,
Errol.
Really interesting details there, Weijia, and a good reason for everyone to stay close to CBS News today as we report all of this out. We know that President Biden's top diplomat, Secretary of State Antony Blinken, is in Israel. He really spent the weekend meeting with just about all the key allies in the region, including officials in Saudi Arabia and in Egypt. But what is he trying to accomplish with them exactly?
So there are several goals here, Errol, and you're right. This was a very frenzied trip as the country's top diplomat here shuttled to and from several different nations, ending up today back in Israel. And among those goals is to get the hostages out, try to negotiate some sort of deal to free the people who have been kidnapped by Hamas, especially the Americans, and also to get aid into the Gaza region, and people who want to leave, Americans who are stuck there, want to leave, help them get out as well. And finally, and this is really key, to try to prevent and deter this conflict from growing even more. And I think that right now is the administration, one of the administration's top concerns, because this could very quickly spiral. And if it does, then that would be a catastrophe on another scale. And so they are trying to prevent that from happening. And that's why we're hearing such strong messages from Blinken and from President Biden himself about anyone who might try to take advantage of this situation. And the president has been very clear. He has said, don't.
And so the president's canceling trips, holding meetings. Secretary of State is in Israel. I understand the Pentagon now sending a second aircraft carrier to the eastern Mediterranean in support of Israel. But the White House has also made a promise to provide the millions of people in Gaza with humanitarian aid. So where do things stand on that front?
So on the carrier, we know that over the weekend it was making its way there to the region, along with more fighter jets and all the crew that goes along with it. And that is, again, part of the strategy to deter that we were talking about, to show force even more that even though, you know, there are no U.S. boots on the ground, America is there. America is standing with Israel and prepared in place in the case of this conflict broadening out. And as for the aid, unfortunately, Errol, it's not just up to the U.S. And the trouble is that there are reports that Hamas is safeguarding the entry points into Gaza, not only refusing to let people leave, but also refusing to let aid in. And so you're right in that, you know, a big part of the secretary's trip, along with the U.S. Goals, is to get the aid in there for the millions of civilians who right now don't have the necessities to survive. But it's all about brokering a deal and getting passageway in so that that aid can be delivered. But the administration officials we've spoken with continue to say that they are doing everything in their power to try to help those civilians and, of course, to try to get those Americans trapped there out.
That's right. Certainly a consequential week. Weijia Jiang, thank you very much. We'll continue to check in with you.
Sure.